No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert A. Glover. Reviewed by Jeremy M. Roadruck, Kung Fu Guy Extraordinaire, your strong marriage and amazing kids guy. A book review, a quick one, on the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert A. Glover. Now, he has a PhD in marriage and family therapy back in the 70s and 80s, and this book actually came out in 2003, so almost 20 years ago as of this recording. And I listened to the Audible version, which has been updated from the original release. So I just want to fill in a couple of things there so that whatever version you listen to, watch, read, whatever, you know where I'm coming from. And I want to say this is actually a really good book. It has a lot of fundamental information. So if you're a guy who is struggling in his intimate life, in his relationships, and why you're not fully satisfied and don't feel you can be fully real and can't be open and honest about things, and constant tension and stress, and you're afraid to say what you really want because you're worried about somebody abandoning you or rejecting you, this is probably the perfect book for you to get started on. Now, I do have a couple of things to say about the book in the end, but let's talk specifically about some of the ideas that Dr. Glover has. So the basic premise that Dr. Glover shares is this idea of a nice guy. And a nice guy is somebody who's been conditioned by his childhood, by society in general, to believe that he can only be happy if he makes everybody else happy, and he should never cause conflict or never cause any kind of tension or frustration. So he should behave. The problem with this is it creates some tension, because sometimes to get what you want, you got to make people mad or make people uncomfortable, or you got to speak up for the stuff that matters to you. And for nice guys, conflict is, ooh, I can't do that. My wife would be mad. This is the guys that are constantly what we call people pleasing. And because of the way they act and the way they behave, they suppress a lot of their emotions. They suppress it or they repress it. They hide what they're really feeling. So they actually have a lot of dishonesty in their life. They think and they look to all outside views like they're living in integrity, but on the inside they know, well, I didn't really say what I really felt, or I didn't say what I really wanted or what I really need. And so it creates this tension, because I want the approval from others, but I know I don't deserve it because I'm not being honest and I'm not being real, not being genuine. And so there's this constant tension. It can come out in some very unnice ways, like passive-aggressive behavior, not fully living up to promises, living in expectation and obligation, because I did this for you, now you owe me, and a lot of that, you know, the strings attached kind of energy that some guys seem to give off, and everything, there's always some subtle thing behind the scenes about everything, and you never really know if you're getting the full story. And so that inauthenticity, that's really the problem. So basically what's going on is, from Glover's point of view, these guys think everything revolves around them. Everyone's happiness, everyone's misery, it's their fault. They're taking everybody's feelings and actions and thoughts and wants and needs, and it's all about me. And I have to deliver that, I have to provide that, I have to make that. And you'll hear these guys, they're really genuine guys who want to help everyone. They like to fix things, they like to provide, but they forget about themselves. And they don't take care of their own needs, because that feels selfish. If I take time for me, then my wife will be angry, or my kids will be angry, or they'll be unhappy, or they might leave me. And you hear that kind of a story from the nice guys. And so even though their heart is in the right place, the way they go about getting it is kind of wrong. So they end up doing something Glover calls caretaking, as opposed to caregiving, right? Caretaking is, I'm gonna provide what I wanna provide, what I think you need, and I'm gonna do this for you, and now you owe me. Versus caregiving is more sustainable, it's more humane. And when you caregive, you remember you got to include yourself too, because you can't give what you don't have. So when you're caregiving, it's more of a sustainable flow and finding out, what do you need? And let me help you with the things you need. Caretaking is where I'm going to give you what I have, and you're going to accept it, and you're going to like it, and you're going to owe me. So it's a different kind of polarity, a different kind of passion. Caregiving, it's a different feeling. It's more that protector-provider type of energy and masculine, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, the two things that Dr. Glover says that men need to do to kind of rectify the situation, number one, is they need to recognize their own needs are important, and what they want is important. And it's not selfish to take care of what you need and what you want. It's kind of like being in an airplane when it's crashing. Put your own oxygen mask on first, right? I said it earlier. You can't give what you don't have. So if you're not in a great place, or you're giving from a place of expectation and obligation and manipulation, what are you really giving to other people? Nice guys need to realize that they have to kind of make themselves happy first. Get themselves in a good place, get themselves in a strong place, and then they can ripple that out to others. And so one of his suggestions is get around other men. Be around other guys, because masculine stuff in a healthy way, it's a learned behavior, it's a learned trait. It's not something we just naturally figure out over time. In the book, he talks about the effect of World War I and World War II on society, and how men went off to war and boys were being raised by women in education and women in society. It changed a lot of the dynamics of how young boys were socialized and the things they learned. And so that makes an impact. So being around other guys is super helpful. Tells the story. There's a guy named John who comes up and thanks him for the work that Glover's done. He was involved in one of the men's groups that Glover and his organization have been facilitating. And he said, being around these guys and, what do you really want to do? And I want to take time off and connect with my family, and I want to be more present for them. And it was the men that he was associating with that made that possible. Now, I'm not going to tell you who exactly that John guy was, so you'll have to check out the book for yourself. But it's pretty powerful when you go, oh my gosh. And there's actually a pretty famous song about the situation if you know the background of the group that this guy was associated with. And I'll say no more about that, but I encourage you to definitely check it out. Now, I have a question for you, right? Ultimately, you can only give what you have. If you're in a crappy place, if you're stressed, if you're overloaded, if you're feeling worthless, the energy you're giving to the people around you, it's not going to be good stuff. So it is incumbent on you. It is responsible for you. You have to start learning how to assert, respect boundaries, how to get stable inside your own masculinity, right? Masculine is not a bad thing. It's not toxic. It's not evil. It's half of what makes the world literally spin for our species energetically. If the whole world was feminine, there'd be no more babies. So we need the masculine and the feminine together. They both need to be strong, appreciated for who and what they are and what they bring to the conversation, the unique strengths and gifts and awareness. Now, my personal review of this book is this is like an entry-level book into masculine and feminine polarity. This is a good base to open your mind to some possibilities and some causal factors. But it really is everything he describes in the book, in my model of the world and in my experience over the last 26 years. He's talking about men who are living in their feminine, who are not feminine in their core, right? Being a nurturer, being a people pleaser, being able to adapt yourself to take care of other people is more of a feminine trait than a masculine trait. Masculine as a provider does do a lot of the same nurturing that feminine does, but there's not so much the shifting of personality or the bending of lines and rules. Masculine as a provider is very clear. This is okay, this is not. This is allowed, this is not. Where feminine will be a lot more adaptable. And so to me, as I read this book, or as I listened to it because of the Audible, he's talking a lot, it's patterns of masculine, male people living in feminine, and it's not in their core. Because if it was, you wouldn't be bothered by it. It wouldn't cause anxiety and stress and frustration and judgment. That anxiety and stress and frustration and judgment, that's that masculine nature inside, that masculine core saying, how I'm living is not who I am. Masculine speaks from integrity, from consistency. Masculine says, this is what is true and what is real and what I know to be the case, and does not equivocate, does not wobble, does not. Masculine plants a freaking flag and builds a kingdom. That's what masculine does. And so if you're a masculine person in your core, in the very center of your being, but you've been raised by people who made that wrong, or you've been given a society that says that's not okay and you should be shameful for being a man and for wanting and craving and building and helping and fixing and all those things, that's where that friction comes from. Because we have this greater vision that says, no, I have to be this other thing, but who am I really? And that's the tension. So when you realize it, nothing to be shamed about, nothing to be at fault or blamed about, nothing to feel guilty about. It's an opportunity to recognize and acknowledge that reality and go, dude, what a fantastic wake-up call to be more of who I really am and how I can truly show up to actually serve and lift up the people I love as a protector and as a provider in my masculine presence and masculine playfulness and creativity. That's a beautiful gift to give to the world. So this book is an excellent place to start. I don't think it's the end-all be-all of everything to say. I don't really think any book is, except maybe the ones I write, but even then, probably not, right? So it's the idea that there's always more to the conversation. There's always more angles we could take this. So definitely learn and grow and achieve. This is a solid book. I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars because I think it really is. It should be on your library. You need to read it, you need to learn it, and most important, share it with somebody else, because when you do, it makes you have to go back through it and you understand it deeper as you explain it to someone else. So I hope this review helped you. Definitely go and get a copy of the No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert A. Glover. And now I know I just mentioned about being involved with a group of guys. So I want to invite you to come check out my group of guys called Unstoppable Masculine. And it's the idea, no, we're not going to be a bunch of blowhards, banging chains, grabbing our junk out in the woods with a drum circle. It's not that kind of a thing. Some of those things do exist and they're not wrong. They're just different. Mine is more about how to truly maintain, sustain your masculine presence and core. Show up playful, show up present, and it creates power in your life, with your kids, with your wife. And it's a no BS, no complicated, actual boots on the ground, action steps. Here's things to do in this area of focus. We break it into 6 areas: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and relationshipal. And so it's how do you do nuts and bolts, real world brass tacks. Here's how to make impact, not touchy-feely, not theory. It's specific action steps to help you move forward further, farther, faster in days, not weeks or months or years. And I would love for you to check out the Unstoppable Masculine program. The link is in the description down below. So get involved now and get your life going further, farther, faster, baby. And I'll see you when I see you. You make it an outstanding day. Bye.